Today, G2 announced that they are benching Hooxi from the active roster, and this comes after the win that G2 had in IEM Dallas without Hooxi. Instead, they were famously using Stewie2K as a sub for that event, and so I wanted to do a deep dive before this news even came out on if G2 was actually better off without Hooxi and look at a couple of demos. And so now that Hooxi has actually been benched from G2, I wanted to do the deep dive on if Hooxi was actually the problem and if G2 was better off without him, right after a quick word from our sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a site where you could trade skins that you already have to get some skins that you might want. That way you can hop into your next game with some fresh new skins. All you have to do is log into the site through Steam, put in the skins that you don't want anymore, grab the skins that you do, and then click trade. Trades happen almost immediately, and any balance that you don't use in the trade will roll over for a trade that you might do in the future. Right now you can get a free $5 if you were to use code Austin on the site, and if you were to use my code you would get an additional 5% on top of the 30% deposit bonus. So let's say if you deposit $100, that means you would get $135 if you use my code to deposit. So make sure you guys check out SkinsMonkey, and let's get right back into the video. So of course, when I ask you, is G2 better without Hooxi, a lot of you guys are going to immediately want to say, well, obviously, Austin, they won an event with Stewie subbing in for Hooxi, and so clearly Hooxi might be the problem. Well, I don't actually know if I agree with you. So today we're going to be looking at this series that G2 played versus 3D Max, as well as the series that G2 played in the final of Dallas with Stewie against Vitality. And the reason we're doing that is because when G2 played 3D Max, this is, by the way, the event right before Dallas, they actually had a best of 3 that went all 3 maps that was the exact same veto as the one in the finals of Dallas. So we can actually see how Hooxi plays Anubis, Nuke, and Inferno, and then we'll look at how Stewie played the same 3 maps, filling in for Hooxi's roles. Now, there is a couple of things that I want to talk about, and clearly 3D Max is a worse opponent than Vitality, and this is an online match, and this is not a LAN final match. You know, like there are different stakes here, so obviously Stewie is going to be, you know, it's going to look a little bit worse for Stewie because he's got a lot more pressure on his plate. But with that being said, one of the first things that I think is important to note about Hooxi is that Hooxi does play with a lot more confidence than Stewie because Hooxi's the IGL. I mean, look at this. You've probably never even seen a highlight like this from Hooxi before because people don't ever really talk about this. But look at this. He gets 3 kills, calls a mid-round, and he gets, well, 3 kills and a dink, and he calls the entire round around himself. What happened? Well, he walks through mid and he hears the rotations. He's going to catch the timing. He's going to organize his team to group up. These are the kind of things that aren't going to happen from Stewie, but it's not because Stewie doesn't know how to do these things. It's because Stewie isn't the IGL. Remember, Nico is the IGL. So when we look over at the other series, we're going to watch Nico try to fill this role, but he's not going to fill this role. He's still going to send Stewie to take these timings to play like Hooxi, but Stewie's not the one making the calls at the end of the day. I mean, he's going to give his insight, but he's not going to, you know, be making the end round calls most of the time. So I've actually got my notepad here full of examples of the differences between Hooxi and Stewie, but none of these are to illustrate that Stewie or Hooxi is better, but more so to look at G2's performance and see if they were actually better off without Hooxi. And so let's keep going. We got a couple more examples. Actually, I believe the next round here from Mr. Hooxi is one of them that I wanted to talk about. So typically what's going to happen for Hooxi is we'll actually have to rewind. He's going to be playing supportive. He's going to be throwing more the utility for his teammates. He's going to start here by throwing an E-box smoke, one of the better E-box smokes. You should probably know that one. Then he's going to throw this A main smoke. Now the reason he's doing this is because of course he wants to be able to take towards E-box as well as, or cave for all of you EU people are going to be like, what's E-box? And they call out. No, seriously. He's going to smoke off E-box. Then he's going to smoke off A main. And the point being, obviously he wants to make sure that they can take A main and E-box. These are the most important parts of Anubis, in my opinion, other than maybe mid. And if you have both of these against an eco, you're probably never going to lose. So again, throwing the utility, and then he's coming out to play supportive. He's going to, you know, be throwing the flashes. If he needs to, he's going to go in first. And this is another one of those rounds. Now, if we actually look at Stewie, you will note that when we switch over in a second, he's going to be doing some of the same things, but not doing quite as much. All right, so when we look at Stewie's version of this round, this is against a full eco just like the one we looked at. In case we get confused, by the way, I'll have something to differentiate between Hooxi and Stewie POV. But anyway, this is a same round, but we will note Stewie doesn't smoke A main. This isn't Stewie's choice, by the way. This is more than likely a IGL difference where they just don't want to smoke A main this time because that's Nico calling it instead of Hooxi. But it's not like it's objectively worse. I'm just pointing out the differences. And also, Stewie's going to play a lot more aggressive than Hooxi would, because when we watch Hooxi, Hooxi's going to play aggressive. But if Hooxi plays aggressive, when we look at the rest of the maps, Hooxi's playing aggressive with the intention of gaining an advantage. If Hooxi dies, he will always get an advantage in the round, like 90% of the time. And we'll see that on Inferno, we'll see that on Nuke, and we'll also see that on a couple more rounds here in the future on Anubis. Now, generally, this is still the exact same setup as we saw before, with the main difference of Stewie being going E-Box here. Now, if you look at the other round, the exact same setup. What goes wrong in this round versus in the round with Hooxi is, well, unfortunately for Hunter, he's going to get destroyed. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. He's sitting here holding the angle, and then he's going to get destroyed. The bomb will be given away, and then, well, it kind of gets out of hand from here. It actually gets so out of hand to the point where, despite Stewie and Nico's best efforts to pull it back, they're actually going to lose this eco. Now, remember, this is a very big deal considering the fact that this is a grand final, and you don't want to be giving up full ecos. By the way, full ecos. Each player saved $2,000, and they're going to be losing these. I have a feeling that Hooxi more than likely would have probably did the same thing. I'm not gonna lie. They called the same round, then Hunter died. I feel like this is something that you look at and you're like, this probably still would have happened with Hooxi. Now, a lot of people might think that Stewie is actually a lot more aggressive than Hooxi, to which I would agree to an extent, but actually you might be surprised to see that Hooxi still goes for his fair share of aggressive plays. For example, we have a round here where Hooxi's going to throw the E-Box smoke for himself, and then he's going to play pretty aggressive in towards E-Box. Now, I'm going to keep calling it E-Box, even though the EU kids will probably still complain. So he walks through the E-Box smoke by using the lurk smoke. He's actually going to catch a timing here, and he's going to organize his team. Remember, he's calling for all of this. He is playing aggressive, getting this info so his team can use it, right? They're going to do a B split. They shouldn't know, and by they, I mean the other team shouldn't know that Hooxi has made his way in here. This is a really good call, but the problem is that Hooxi gets a little greedy here, and he whiffs an easy kill. I'm not gonna lie, that is something that happens a lot to Hooxi, but regardless, we have to still look at it from the objective standpoint of this is a really good call, and when we go over and we watch the version of G2 without Hooxi, we're not actually seeing a lot of this. I mean, sure, Stewie does play aggressive towards E-Box, so we have Stewie. This is literally the exact same idea that we just watched with Hooxi. Stewie's going to throw the E-Box smoke for himself, he's gonna wait, and then he's going to creep up and play aggressive here. Now, he's going to throw a molly, unlike Hooxi, he did not do that, which is basically telling the intention here of taking E-Box, but unfortunately for Stewie, he's actually just going to outright lose this duel to Spinks. Now, this is something similar to what Hooxi was doing, where everybody's grouped up here. Now, the reason Stewie's being so aggressive is probably because he needs to be faking as if they're doing something like E-Box control, grouping B main, and they're probably not expecting this to be an A-pop, which is actually a really good call. I like this. But again, it's not like we wouldn't see Hooxi call something like this either. We're seeing the exact same style from G2. My point being, I don't think that there was a lot of differences between this version of G2 and the version with Hooxi, other than the IGL. And I don't know. I mean, we'll keep going, though. We'll keep going. All right, we've got one more round for T-side Anubis I'd like to look at, which is the mid-round that is called. Now, remember, this one is called with Hooxi as the IGL, and the other one will be called with Nico as the IGL. We have basically a nice mid-pressure round where Hooxi's going to smoke E-Box and A main. Of course, smoking A main allows next set of pressure in towards A main like by himself and take that control. But one of the things that they're going to do is they're actually going to pressure mid. And the round we're about to look at, we see the same thing with Stewie, except Stewie seems a little lost, and Mono-C is actually not holding B main. He's going to go with them. So that is going to be one of the big differences here. As you're going to see, they're going in. It seems to be pretty well drilled. Nico's burning to death. The round is going to continue until, unfortunately, they do get shut down. But when we go over and we look at the other round, you're going to see that this is basically the same idea. Now, maybe it's because Stewie didn't know all of the smokes here, but we're going to see the pretty much exact same round where Stewie is going to smoke off E-Box, but Nico actually is the person that smokes off A main instead of Hooxi dropping that second smoke and then throwing it. So what do we see? Stewie doesn't really know where to be. We do have some of the same themes here. Hunter's holding B main, pressuring, but basically they still want to do the same end goal. They're waiting out the mid smoke. Stewie's spamming a little bit, and they're going to end up walking mid. This is about the exact same round with Nico going first and everything. But the only difference is the CTs aren't actually playing in towards mid, so they are going to be able to find this timing, and then Hooxi, Stewie will go down in the end, but the round will be won. Now, the only reason this round is more successful than the one we watched with Hooxi is because there was no mid setup for the CTs, and that's going to happen sometimes. But you're basically seeing my point. My point being, Nico is calling just like Hooxi would. So we don't really have that much difference stylistically from the IGL with Nico to Hooxi. Nico's probably using most of the same strat book as Hooxi was using anyway, so you're seeing the exact same rounds. You're seeing the exact same playstyle. Stewie is filling Hooxi's role to a T. It's the same team. They're just the same team. They really were. They were the same team with Stewie, 100%. But if you don't believe me, let's switch over to CT side. Now, when I did my demo review of Stewie the first time on Anubis, you can click the top right if you want to see that review, I did talk about how Stewie seems incredibly uncomfortable on CT side Anubis, and this is more than likely because of the fact that he didn't actually play this map when he was a professional a couple years back. And because of that, he's taking a lot of less than ideal positions and giving up a lot of, well, he's just taking too many risks. For example, he chooses this spot close to E-Box here, holding for B main when he is solo B, and the problem with this spot, at least in my opinion, is that no matter what happens here, he's pretty much only going to get one kill. This is a one and done angle. If somebody creeps up E-Box, which we do see Zywoo is doing, he will always be able to pinch Stewie, and the trade is in. Remember, he doesn't have any backup, so he can't fall back because E-Box, there's somebody there, and he can't really go anywhere. He's just stuck. The spot is not that good in a 4 versus 4, and, well, you're about to see exactly why. That E-Box pressure comes in, he gets mollied, and he's not even going to get one. And when Hooxi's in the same position, this one actually being a 3 versus 3, he's going to pick a lot safer of a spot, which is this angle in CT, a very good one if you're a B anchor. And now why is this angle so much better? Well, it's because most of the time he will be able to catch somebody lurking out of B main, and if he gets that kill, he can back up. If actually somebody were to walk out of E-Box here, they actually would have a pretty tough time spotting him unless they committed all the way to the side of the pillar right here, in which case they would be exposing themselves to somebody potentially in CT. Not a great peak for the T, so they probably won't do it, especially in the tier 1 level. And so he can get a kill, and he has a very good fall off option. He can safely get away and live. And more importantly than that, if the exec were to come in and they were to come towards B here, sorry, smoke off B, like left side here, he actually has a way to get a kill and get out. He can even spam the smoke, a lot safer of an option rather than playing this one and done here. And as a matter of fact, when they do come in towards B, they throw that left side smoke, and we see just that. He can pick a better position where he can get a frag. And again, he's going to just continue to play this safe spot. The T's are coming in towards B. He has enough utility to deny, flashes in towards B main, has a pretty good fight here on to Lucky, and then he just keeps going. The utility usage is so much better. The positioning is just a lot better in my opinion, and it just, I don't know, it just seems like he's a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident, and to be honest, I'm just going to outright say a lot better at playing the B site than Stewie was. Now, this is not to say that Stewie is bad. It's just, again, an inexperience with the Anubis thing. But with that being said, I actually think that G2 would have played better in Dallas if they had Hooxi instead of Stewie for CT side Anubis. This is one where I think that Stewie was a downgrade. But yeah, anyway, another thing that stylistically is pretty different from Stewie to Hooxi, which I can just talk about really quickly, is that Hooxi is a lot more aggressive in towards B main than Stewie was. I mean, we actually didn't see any rounds at the entire event where, well, at least not to my knowledge, there might have been like one round where there was B main aggression from Stewie. But Hooxi, he likes to play aggressive in there a lot. He likes to walk push B main, he likes to take his timings, and if you actually go and load up this demo, I'm not going to show every round here in the interest of time, he actually just fights B main a lot, and you would expect somebody that's aggressive like Stewie to do that, but we're not actually seeing that from him. And look at this information that he's getting. I get it, it's a 5 versus 2 in this round, but in previous rounds where it wasn't, he's getting round winning info, which can allow for a stack. Look, there's 3 people on A site right now because of the information Hooxi has, and these were not the kind of plays that were being made in Dallas. So I actually think overall G2 was better with Hooxi on this map, and it's not even close. But maybe it's just for this map. Let's switch over to Inferno and look at a few more examples. Now, the role that Hooxi plays on T side of Inferno is actually the solo banana player, and sometimes he goes with Nico, and sometimes Nico goes alone too. But this role is very, very difficult. Now, historically, you're going to want your IGL to play a role like this because they can always take these aggressive timings in banana, they can take these fights, and most of the time, the IGL will always know a way to make their death valuable. This is one of those maps where if Hooxi dies, 90% of the time, it's because his teammates are going to trade him, which lead to an advantage. And there is sometimes where he gets just smoked, and that happens, but you'll see what I mean. So we're watching this round here, and Hooxi's going to be playing aggressive in towards banana, and once he has that feeling, he's going to drop a nade onto corner and just slightly misses it. Probably would have hit in CSGO, but he's actually going to get close here. He's waiting for a flash from his teammates. He's going to try to walk through. Unfortunately, Joko gets stuck on him trying to come through the smoke and will take him down. That's very unfortunate, but the idea there is very similar to what we're about to watch from Stewie, where Stewie's going to get into Banana and he's going to play aggressive. Just like we were watching Hooxi, the Molly is going to force the fight into Apex and he just goes down. So this is another situation where, what do we see? We see exact same playstyle, slightly different round, but Hooxi and Stewie both die. 0 for 1. 0 for 1. And this is what I'm saying. You're seeing the same things are happening. But look, in this round, there's no real advantage to Stewie's death. They're just clearly at a disadvantage until, of course, Vitality go for the re-aggression, which I don't actually know why they did that. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why they did that. But let's look. Back to the round with Hooxi. When Hooxi dies, there is a reason. Off of the back of Hooxi's death, he knows, as the IGL, what's most likely to happen is they're going to think they have banana control, or at the very least, they're going to gamble one back towards A, in which they, or they're going to give up top car. A lot of options here for Inferno, and that's exactly what happens. So you see, Hooxi calls a group. All 4 of his teammates are going to group up, and they're going to trade out onto the B site. This is a round where Hooxi dies, and yet G2 have a clear advantage. They just execute the B site 4 versus 2, and they go flawless. They go absolutely flawless. Well, remember, when we just watched that round with Stewie, we just played it, now we're back here. There was no advantage to Stewie's death. Stewie died, and there was no call. Off of the back of Stewie's death, you would think maybe if it was Hooxi, he would be like, all right, guys, just all group up. We're just going to hit the site now. Instead, Nico does not call that. Instead, there's 2B. There's still 2A. They're basically defaulting in a 5 versus 4. And if Vitality hadn't gone for that re-aggression, they probably would have lost the round. I mean, more than likely, right? So this is another example of, I like the way Hooxi plays. When he dies, something is going to happen that leads to an advantage. I think I'd say the main difference that you'll see on T side is that Hooxi likes to lead by example. He goes in first, he gets traded so that way his star players are alive in the end of the round, and you're gonna see this is just typically the theme. I don't want to talk too much more about T side because these themes will just kind of go through all of the maps that we're gonna see, but when we watch Stewie, it's more of like an aggressive entry fragger, and then whenever he dies, the team tries to compensate for this. They try to get an advantage from his death because things are not planned out, things were not, you know, set in stone and ready to go. Instead, Nico's trying to improvise these things on the run, whereas with Hooxi, everything was probably a lot more comfortable. Now, of course, that's going to happen with a stand-in, though. That's not necessarily Stewie's fault. That's not Nico's fault. So we've switched over to the CT side, and I think that the main summary for CT side is that Hooxi's just a little bit more comfortable with his utility usage. He's also a lot more comfortable with setting up Nico. A lot of times on these maps, you're going to see he's holding flashes for Nico. He's just trying to make it so Nico is set up in the best position. We have a nice 100 damage nade, by the way, there from Hooxi, as well as a flash for Nico. Again, just setting him up, putting him in the best possible positions, and overall, it's just pretty solid. He actually likes to go into this setup right here, and this is a setup that was also used from the boys in Dallas. And here we are, we've got Stewie in the exact same setup with Nico here, but the only difference was that this was actually a B pop from Vitality, and Stewie's going to try his best, but he's only going to find 1 in the end. And again, this is just to show we're running the same playbook, except instead of Hooxi calling it, we have Nico calling it, and instead of Hooxi shooting, we have Stewie shooting, which basically is about the same. Okay, so I have 2 more examples for you guys for Inferno. One is an aggressive banana round, where in this round we have 3 towards B. We get the early utility usage, the nade stack, the mollies to delay, and more importantly, that molly is to delay because it buys time for Hunter to come to the back of the site to throw some nice god flashes. And here we have it. The delayed banana take is in. We get the flashes off the wall. Hooxi wants to go down, but unfortunately for Hooxi, he is actually going to go down here. Actually, funnily enough, Nico's nade gets him killed because Lucky can actually spot him and he will die. But one of the things that I'm highlighting about this round is that even though Hooxi died, remember what I said, whenever Hooxi dies, there's always a backup plan. And the backup plan is that they don't actually know that there's 3B here, so we can let Nico take contact, and once Nico starts shooting, we actually can have Hunter peek, or once the smoke comes up, Hunter can spam, which actually is a perfect base setup. They walk right into this, it gets absolutely dealt with off the backs of Hooxi's death. But this isn't something that doesn't happen when we watch Stewie play, because even when we have the aggressive banana take with Stewie, we're basically going to see the exact same thing. So we're going to have the aggressive take. We have 3 towards B, where Hunter is going to throw his utility, the exact same thing that he did before, and now he's going to back up and he's going to set up the god flashes. Different god flashes than last time, but same idea. And we're going to see the same thing. We're going to cycle utility, denying the banana take from Vitality, and then once the time is right, Stewie's going to jump through the smoke psychopath, by the way. That's insane. And he's actually going to get punished for that. Waiting out the flashes here, gets his timing, misses his kill, but he will go down. Now, off the back of Stewie's death, we are still going to see that his death was not for no reason, because we have aggressive Nico. Remember, this is the same setup where Hunter's going to come up here and they're baiting the fact that there's only 2 here and the Stewie went down. But because Vitality don't end up pressuring Nico off and he stays aggressive, Hunter's actually going to be able to cheat their rotate over to A because Nico still has information that they're not B. And because of that, they're actually going to be able to hold the site. And we can watch this best from m0NESY's POV, because when they start to come in, m0NESY's going to hit all of these insane shots. We'll actually put it in 2x speed just so you can get an idea. He was absolutely frying this event. Comes out, hauls, hits, and that's an insane shot. I mean, that was 2x speed and it looked like he was cheating. But yeah, he's just going to be in the back of the site, combined with our boy Hunter, who was able to rotate over. Remember, because of that, because he's here, he can save m0NESY's life from Apex, and then m0NESY hits one more, and the hold is perfect. But is this because Nico called it? What's the main difference in this round? This is still a Hooxi call. This is a Hooxi strat. We've seen them run this in the demo before this. So the backup plan works regardless. If they don't push Nico after Hooxi or Stewie's death in this instance, well, we still have the info to rotate to A. But if they do, then we have the bait setup. That's the call that Hooxi made. That's how this is such a good strat. So we're watching them run the exact same idea, but with Stewie instead. This is the same team. That's what I've been saying the entire video. This is the same team. This is genuinely the exact same. Not a lot of differences here. Maybe the only difference is that Stewie is more uncomfortable and doesn't know as many nades, which is just a downgrade, right? And for our final example, I want to showcase basically that Stewie and Hooxi have the same fragging potential, at least as far as I'm concerned. We have some insane pressure from the T side here. Hooxi's going to hide in the smoke, comes out with a self flash, and he's going to end up finding not 1, but actually 2 kills to secure the round. And that's pretty much exactly what Stewie did. So here we are. We have a bait and switch from Mr. Stewie and Nico. Remember, Nico is known for doing this, but Stewie is going to be baiting him, and off the back of Nico's death, we get a heroic 2-man spray down from Stewie, which had the crowd exploding, and then m0NESY gets the last kill, and there you have it. So we see the same idea. Hooxi and Stewie are both able to get those important multi-frags. And for the last map, we do have Nuke. And let's remember that one clip that we saw of Stewie throwing the smokes in Dallas. Of course, he was practicing them live on stage. And yeah, we get to see the exact same thing. So Hooxi's responsible for throwing the smokes, and so is Stewie. So, you know, the only difference actually is a small difference is when Hooxi throws them, he throws them in the correct order. When Stewie threw them, they actually landed in the wrong order. So here we'll see him coming in, boom, 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 easy peasy. But let's go ahead and watch Stewie's perspective on this. So we've got Stewie doing the exact same thing. He threw all the smokes. He's got them lined up, ready to go. Let's go out here and see how they land. And if I remember correctly, they actually land in the wrong order. Yes, usually he threw them in the wrong order because it actually leaves this gap. So if anybody tries to lurk, as Nico's doing, actually could get spotted by credit. That's why you throw them in the other way. That way that doesn't happen. But of course, the smokes does end up coming just very, very late. So, you know, it's a little awkward, but it does end up working out. They do both know the outside smokes. Now, showing the smokes was a little bit of a meme because it was just to show they play the same role and do the same thing. But here's an example of a set strat that they're going to run in both of the games we're watching, where they're going to go down first, but they get traded and actually end up in a pretty favorable 2v2. Unfortunately, G2 doesn't close it in this game, but when we go watch the game with Stewie, we're going to see them run the same strat, and let's see how it goes. So here we go. They're coming in to set up the exact same strat. Stewie gets in the same spot as Hooxi. Actually lines up a different flash. I think this is still fine. Yep, it bounced out the door just like before. Stewie dies on entry, gets traded, and they end up in a decently good position up until m0NESY burns Hunter to death because the top hut molly is huge. Valve, please fix. And yeah, they don't win the round. Now I've got another round here of a good strat that Hooxi calls that Nico actually also calls in Dallas, which is actually where they throw the outside smokes, and once the outside smokes are down, they're going to walk through them into garage. Now, this strat works in Dallas, and it also works here. Now, Hooxi is again leading by example, just like I mentioned in Inferno and also on Anubis. Walking around here, he's going to go down to this really insane off angle from Lucky, but he gets traded, and everything is going pretty well actually at the 3 versus 3, but unfortunately for Nico, he misses the bomb. He probably thinks he picks it up because he heard that sound cue from a nade, and he's fully convinced he has the bomb right now. The hit comes in, everything is going well, up until the part where they realize that they they don't actually have the bomb, so they lose the round. But still, really good call from Hooxi, and if Nico didn't think he picked up the bomb, then they would have just straight up won this round. So let's go ahead and watch this round from Dallas now, and you'll see how they won it there. So here we are in Dallas now. We've got the same exact strat like I mentioned before. We're gonna have Nico on a heater. He gets the first kill. As a matter of fact, he's even gonna get one through the smoke here. Check this out. This is pretty cool. Catches him on the nade blow, gets the kill, and he's gonna walk through the garage smoke just like we talked about in the round beforehand. Now Stewie is actually going to come with him, but instead of walking with him, he's actually just going to hold mini. Now this is a good round from Nico. I'm assuming he just called this because he wants to do an A split where he's going to come in through heaven. It's actually perfect. Misses the jump for the clipping. Valve, please fix. And yeah, so we do see, you know, the same round. They kind of just bleed him out, and they're going to trade. Nico gets the last kill, and there you have it. So both of these rounds work flawlessly, and we're just taking another strat from Hooxi's playbook. Granted, Nico's mid round is very good, and it just kind of does show you that Nico is still capable as an IGL, but my point in this video is to say I don't actually think that they're playing any different. Switching over to CT side, we are going to see Hooxi and Stewie play basically the exact same. I do think both of them play very aggressive, and I think they play very well as an A anchor. Granted, this spot at the highest level pretty much is just, you can only play it one way. Hooxi's going to go ahead here and swing in towards HUD, and he dies. But we're actually going to watch how Stewie holds an exact same A hit. So Stewie's going to start his round on top HUD, cycling a door smoke just like we saw before, and once the hit starts to come in, Stewie is actually going to throw himself off of the hut. Now, we talked about this before, and he's actually going to die in the exact same spot as Hooxi, but they're going to hold the round, and they're just going to win. And so you're seeing again, Stewie, Hooxi, exact same. Granted, again, I do think that both of them play very aggressive, which is actually good. I like that a lot. Now, this round is not exactly the same as the ones I've been showing you before, but we do have another example of Hooxi being very clutch. Now, he's going to hold the A split and actually upgrades to an AK, but again, he knows the value of his life. He knows that even though he is in an advantage, and he could play a little more aggressive, he needs to stay alive, and he gets that. As the IGL, of course, he understands that. And so once the round starts to settle down a little bit, we are going to see they get into a good position here, and Hooxi's just going to hold a nice passive angle, wait for them to walk in, finds two, again, just a heroic 3K holding the A site, but we also know that Stewie can do that too, because they're both very clutch players. Now, you don't think of Hooxi as a clutch player, but you do think of Stewie as a clutch player. Think of the, oh, but Stewie's in the back of the site, look at the time. This is the exact same situation where he's going to find the first kill, and he just needs to live. He knows that the time is so low, his life is very valuable, and he's going to somehow manage to get 2 kills and live. This is very important, an underrated quality, and you also even see this from Hooxi. Both of them are extremely smart players. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the video there. I do actually think that Stewie was a very good sub for Hooxi in terms of 1-for-1 replacement. I think it was perfect, but I do think that CT sides overall would have still been better with Hooxi. I mean, if we watch the examples that I showed, I just feel like Hooxi brought everybody together a lot better, and overall they were just looking a lot more comfortable, at least on CT sides. T sides, I'm not so sure. They looked very similar, at least in my opinion. But yeah, there you have it. I'd like to hear your guys' opinions in the comments below. I do still think that despite everything, I think that G2 probably still would have won IEM Dallas with Hooxi instead of Stewie. I do firmly believe that. If you disagree, I'd like to hear your opinions in the comments below, but that's going to be it. If you did enjoy this video, please let me know. Like I said, leave a like as well if you enjoyed this. With a lot of time went into this video, trying to splice all of the demos together and my yapping, so make sure you guys leave a like if you did enjoy, and why don't you subscribe to the channel if you made it this far. Really appreciate you guys for watching, and that's going to be it for me. Come check out our stream sometime, and yeah, that's it. Peace.